Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. It's Marquise Martin Hayes, and it's time for Thriving Thursdays. It's been about a year since we've had our first episode, and so it is exciting to know that this is still happening, that people's lives are still being challenged, that you have found secrets and keys and wisdom that you've applied to your life to help you step out of your shell. So keep sending in your testimonies, keep commenting, keep sharing, because listen, the only reason this show exists is so that you and I can expand into who we really are and who we've been all along. Today is going to be no different, as you know, and I'm looking forward to sharing it. But first, a word from one of our sponsors. Willis Counseling and Consulting supports the message of Thriving Thursdays, and it's a Chicago-based counseling practice that offers services to partners, individuals, and families. They offer services via virtual appointments and in person in Chicago and in Naperville. Everyday folks sometimes need to tune up on their mental wellness, and that's exactly what you can get from Willis Counseling and Consulting. You can learn more about them at their website at www.williscc.com. That's www.williscc.com, or text them directly from Facebook Messenger. Willis Consulting, proud sponsor of Thriving Thursday. So, without further ado, today we have a special guest on the show, Dr. Nayshons Mosley. She's going to break down some things that we just exchanged ideas since we never rehearsed. We never set up questions. We just connect, because what we believe is that when we're present, greatness, godliness, flow just comes through us. And so, like every show, let's see what will happen. Bring on Dr. Nayshons. Good morning. How are you?
I'm great. Good morning. How are you?
I am well. I'm well and warm.
Yeah,
Thank goodness. But all is well. All is well. Listen,
I was you
I
two
met
weeks
you.
ago.
Huh?
I was
Yes,
you
right,
two
right.
weeks ago.
I listen. I put up an Instagram reel yesterday, and what really dawned on me was the simplicity of it's all a choice. Like it's nothing more than a choice.
That's right.
I've had a lot of people, as I've been talking about moving west and to a warmer climate, say, don't go there because it's expensive, or don't go there because hurricanes, and it's like, hold on, people already live there.
Yeah.
Why not me? I just got some pictures from home about the snow in Chicago, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm good. Like, I honestly, growing up in Benton Harbor, Michigan, we got the lake effect the other way, not the cold, but the snow. I
Yeah.
actually love snow. I think it's beautiful, but I don't need 6 months of it. Give me like 2 weeks, and I'm good, right?
Give it to me on Christmas Eve. I'm good. It's beautiful on
Yes,
Christmas Eve,
yes,
all you want. But by Christmas
yes.
Day, I'm good.
And you know what's funny is we don't need it for New Year's Eve either, because we'd like to go out and be with friends and
That's
have a good
right.
time. It doesn't also need to be cold.
That's right.
Yeah. So anyway, enough of that stuff. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad you took my invite way back in December.
Right.
I couldn't wait. I know I couldn't wait for this week because you're amazing. Like not
Appreciate
only
that.
you all titled up, but you're like a real person in this world, actually helping
Gratitude.
people and transforming lives. So thank you for
Appreciate
showing up.
that. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Ashe. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's a blessing. It is truly a
Yes,
blessing. I'm super excited to be here. I told you when we first started that I might be in the middle of grant writing, and lo and
you
behold,
did.
the grant writing came maybe about 5 weeks sooner than I anticipated. So, but
Okay.
it's nice to just take a break because I've been working around the clock with this grant, and so it's nice to take a break and, if
Yeah.
nothing else, inspire some folks. So let's get to it.
Let's get to it. Let's get to it. As a matter of fact, let's start right there. In
Okay.
your everyday life of who you are, because this is always one of my sayings before people decide, it's just Marquise again. Who's his guest? Go ahead and break down for us how you show up in the world to other people. Not because I already know if you do you may like shrink it a little bit, but I'm talking about when people call on you, that how people see you, how people rely and compliment how you show up in their life. What does that look like? Who are you?
Wow. Wow, that's a huge question because it really makes you think about who you are and how do you show up in the world. And we don't often do that, right? We don't
No, we
often do
don't.
that on
We
a
don't.
regular basis.
Hmm.
That type of question typically it requires other people to kind of toot our horn
Yeah.
for us, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
for me, I think I like to try to be a resource for people. I like to try to always lend a hand, make myself available, sometimes too available, but I do try to make myself available. I try to be very supportive in any way that I can. That support may look different from situation to situation, person to person, but on a day-to-day basis, I just like helping people. I like mentoring people from young people to adults. I like just encouraging people, sharing, dropping nuggets, sharing encouraging words if I can. So day to day, I'm an higher ed professional running federally funded programs for people that are interested in going back to college. And so, and that's how we
Look,
kind of
I'm going
connected,
back.
right? That's
Yeah,
right. That's how we
exactly.
connected. And I really like to me, it's so much information out there. Why not share the wealth, share the information with people that need it? They may not have access to what you have access to. And so that's really who I am on a day-to-day basis. I work hard. I work long, but I like to give my all when I'm committed to something. And when I feel like I can't give my all, when I feel like I'm falling short, it's time for two things, either for me to check myself or for me to move on. So that's pretty much where I am. A lot of times we're not as introspective. I'm very introspective. I'm always thinking about how can I be better? How can I be better today than I was yesterday? Don't always get it right, but I'm always in that vein, that mental vein. And so sometimes that requires that causes me to be a little harder on myself than I probably should be. But for the most part, I try to show up authentic. What you see is what you get. You're gonna always get me. I love Jesus. I might
Yeah.
slip up and cuss a little bit. But that's authentically me.
I
But
think
the shirt says it all. It's
the
His
plan.
grace for me. It's His
Yes.
grace for me. And so
Yeah.
I am definitely a woman of faith. A woman who believes in God, trusts in God, and recognizes that I am nothing without God. And so I try to exhibit that in my walk, but I also try to just encourage and inspire folk on a day-to-day basis.
That's cool. All right. So breaking it down, since everybody likes to be really humble in their introductions and not be very specific. When you talk about mentoring people, how does
Yeah.
that show up? In what ways, like, are will do people find you? I know I read some things about your love to mentor women and empowering women. What does that look like in a day to day, or what role and capacity does that show up?
Sure. So I am over the last, I think this is year 15. I was a co-founder and I serve as a co-director of a girls mentoring program called SIMSA, SIMSA, which means Safe in My Sister's Arms. And SIMSA is actually like the little sister to another organization called SIMBA, Safe in My Brother's Arms. And both of those programs flow under a nonprofit called Rescue, Release, and Restore Incorporated. Rescue,
Okay,
Release, and Restore. Yeah.
wait. So I'm a professional
Yeah.
in the arena of no, you're good. In the
Yeah.
arena of making sure your message is being heard.
Yeah.
A trainer. Slow that down and break it down for us again,
Sure.
because that's super powerful. Simba and Simsa.
Yep. Yep.
And I just want to make sure everybody really gets that, because right now, one of the things that made the difference in my life and why I'm accredited as being such a great father, it's not that I was such a great father. Like, that's so overrated. But we had a village that helped make it happen. I had some Simbas and some Simsas along the way that have helped our children become who they are. So I just want to make sure parents or people who are looking, or or even students who are looking for that, know where to go. So if you could just slow down a little bit.
I'll break that down for you. So the umbrella of Rescue, Release, and Restore Incorporated, again, it's a nonprofit that was founded back in 1992 that came about as it relates to a lot of the unrest in the communities here in Chicago, around the Rodney King riots, all of those things, and recognizing that our young men needed some mentorship. Our young men coming from the Ida B. Wells projects and the area down there, the down by, Doolittle East Elementary School, these young brothers that were being raised by grandmothers or single parent homes needed some men in their lives to show up on a regular basis. So, 1993 became Simba. 2007 became SIMSA, and then we developed the multicultural program maybe about 4 or 5 years ago called MILA, Multicultural Youth Leadership Academy. So what SIMSA looks like, again, SIMSA is just the female version of Simba. So we really mirrored ourselves after Simba. But what that is, it's a rite of passage process. We take our young women away. And same thing with Simba. We take them away to rural camp areas. We're gone for 8 days in the woods. No cell phones, no TV, no cable, no Facebook, no IG, none of that, right? None of the gram. And I'm gonna tell you how deep it is. Our babies hand our phones over to us and we put them in a Ziploc bag for the week. That's how deep it is. And so with SIMSA,
and they willingly do that?
They willingly do it. Now, the ones that come back, now some of them like to come back every year for this. Some of them that are first timers, they got to kind of get into it like, wait a minute, you want me to give you my what? For how long? You mean I can't charge it? I can't check it? Yeah. So we but what we try to do is we try to uproot the babies from the day-to-day environments that they're used to, the things that are intoxicating their thinking, intoxicating their behavior, intoxicating even their speech, and try to remove them from that and create a new environment for them, a safe environment, hence safe in my sister's arms. And so this is based upon a group of women that are volunteered. We're coming from Chicago, Rockford, DeKalb, Illinois, Indianapolis, Indiana, Columbus, Ohio. We've had women support, women that work with us from Milwaukee. We've had women from Los Angeles as well that have come in and brought young women in to go through our 8-day process. So that's just in the summer. That's 8 days in the summer. But the real work begins because it's one thing to remove these babies away for 8 days, but we gotta build them up, give them processes and tools and resources that when they come back to their home communities, they're #thriving, right? They're thriving. And so we come back during the school year, we're meeting in all of our chapters. So we have chapters in all of those cities. Every third Saturday, there's programming starting in the month of around October, once they get settled in school. So around October, between October and May, they're programming, they're meeting to kind of reinforce everything that they learned at camp. And it's also an opportunity for these same young people to now recruit, go back to school, tell their peers about it, so that these young people can come to the monthly sessions and then be prepared for camp so that it's not a culture shock. It's very African-centered. It's very cultural. They get a lot of historical, basis regarding it. They get a lot of self-esteem. All women, we have elders. We have what's called makungas, which are like the midwives, the adult women that are helping to birth these gifts in these babies. And then we have the mashangas, which are like our young women, our college-age young women that are advocating for these girls. Many of them have gone through the process of being SIMSAs themselves, and they're split up into tribes where they are being mentored by other women and young women around that same age group that are supporting them as they're transitioning through these different rites of passage in life. So long story short, it's great work, been doing it for 15 years. And I love it. We've come together as a nation and bring the men and the women together every February for a reunion. We have that coming up next Saturday. So it's been, and that has been the village in my life, right? That has really helped shape a lot of who I am and how I show up and how I mentor, whether it's mentoring through SIMSA or just even mentoring on a day-to-day basis.
So hold on. This is why that little weak introduction you gave me about who you are. Like, I just support me. You're doing some real, like, you're doing some real work, work in the community. And I'm so glad you shared it, because I needed that thorough explanation, in part because I'm exhausted about the projection of the Black community. The reality that this is the Black community. This is Black history now. I appreciate Black history then. There's so much I don't know. There's so much I'm learning. But the truth is, it's happening now. It's not, there's not this gap that we're told exists. Yes, there's some things that occurred and we know why they occurred. We were set up, et cetera, et cetera. But in spite of that, things like Simba and Simsa and Mila is like, I love that it wasn't just the which I think will be enough, the summer event. I think that will be phenomenal, but you guys have brought it so that it becomes part of the community, so that it becomes part of the culture, so that throughout the year, going to the next year, a new group is ready. And then the mentorship of the college girls in between. Like, I got to figure out how to get my daughters involved, because this is us. And we are powerful. And I love that you're breaking that. You broke that down, because it can't, that type of stuff can't be skipped over, Doc. I didn't know you were doing that. I didn't understand the depth of that. That's what it means when you support people, when you mentor. It's not just, oh, call her and see after free advice. No, there's a system she's plugged into for 15 years that's been changing lives.
Yeah.
How many women have gone through the program in the 15 years you've been there?
So we have, so in terms of volunteers, we average about 20 adult women that are volunteering, again, from elders to college age women a year. Wow. And on average, we average about 55 to 60 girls from the Midwest every year, including a couple girls from Los Angeles. But we average about 55 to 60 girls at our camp every year, every single year. So God is good. And many of them are returning. I would probably say about 60% of those young women return from year to year to camp. 60 to 70% are returning. So they've been there before, or either they've skipped a year for working or whatever and come back. And we start from age 8 and take them all the way through age 17. After they graduate high school, they transition into a leadership process, which is where my daughter is now. My daughter just graduated high school.
What's her name?
She's been in it, Nia.
Okay.
Yeah, purpose. Means purpose. And so she went through the process from the time she was 7, and now she just graduated high school, was unable to transition normally like we normally transition them because of COVID-19. But even now we're working to find ways to support our young women that have been would have been transitioning into that leadership process. She loves it and values it so much. To her, she wants to replace me. Like, she wants to be the next camp director, which is cool because mama got to retire soon, right? But we have, and my co-director the same way. All 3 of her daughters has gone through this process, and they're back serving. All 3 of them are serving in a leadership capacity. Pouring, we teach our girls, you got to pour back into what you receive. You can't just take in this world. You got to be willing to reach back and extend your hand to someone who needs your help, the same help that somebody gave you, needs your support. You're never too busy for it. So yes, you're away at college. Yes, you come home for college break and you want to work. But these same girls are home for college break, and they're sacrificing their college break to spend 8 of those days mentoring these babies at camp.
That's really,
we call them homegrown. We raise up our own homegrown. Homegrown.
Now I'm starting to understand who you really are, your secret identity.
You saw my New York come out. I'm not even from New York, but
are you from New York?
No, I'm not. I'm straight from Chicago. But every now and again, I get a little New York.
All right. Hey, look, we'll take it off. So, all right. So you first of all, Nia is going to be. Well, Nia is incredible. Like, I can't imagine the woman that she is having had that her entire life. So in my mind, I'm thinking about how dynamic you are, and there's only one aspect we're touching on, but I want to kind of get behind the scenes just a little bit, because Nia, to me, I mean, we always, in our community, it's common to say one of 2 things as being esteemed: president or pastor, right? Like, generally speaking, you're going to be a pastor or you're going to be a president. I don't know what Nia is going to be, a world leader of some sort, because to have been birthed in such an environment is astounding. But your bio tells us that wasn't your backdrop. And not that I need to know your backdrop, but what happened? What clicked? How did community show up for you, or what was developed within you? Because you didn't have that. And yet, we refer to you as Dr. Nayshon Mosley for who you are and what you do. What happened? What was that like for you? When did the light click for you? How did you know you were going to go to college, being the first? And tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, wow. So first of all, villages have always been huge for me. And so my first village was my family. And it remains my family. I was blessed with an amazing church family to add on to that. But in terms of college, God is just amazing in his infinite wisdom. And so not knowing that now I would be running the very programs that help to shape me who I am as a young adult. So the Upward Bound programs at Chicago State University, which is what I oversee, I'm a product of. The exact program I am a product of. And so having gone through that process, the leaders there in Upward Bound, Dr. Carol Carson Warner, who still serves as my mentor to this day. She's retired now. And Mr. Anthony Lane and Miss Kathy Thomas, those were our leaders in Upward Bound that impressed upon us going to college, completing more than one college application, not putting all of your eggs in one basket, you know, taking us on college tours, taking us across the country to visit campuses, because if you can envision it, then you can see yourself there, right? If you can really see yourself on that campus, then you can, it's possible, right? Maybe I can do this, especially being a first generation, no one in my family having had a 4-year degree. So it was important for me and for my mom that I participate in Upward Bound, that I be consistent in Upward Bound. And so the way that Upward Bound showed up for me on Saturdays and throughout the academic year on Saturdays and throughout the summer, taking us away to Wheaton College for 6 weeks before Chicago State had a dorm, right? We had to go to Wheaton College in Wheaton, Illinois for 6 weeks or 5 weeks. And then the 6th week, we would take this week-long amazing trip to research things like the Underground Railroad and through Detroit and Canada, or go all the way to the East Coast to New York. And so those programs, those, you know, college access programs like TRIO and Upward Bound, that helped me realize I can go to college. My mother took ill my senior year in high school, actually, while I was on a trip with Upward Bound. We were in New York. My mother took ill, ended up having a brain tumor, needing brain surgery while I was gone for an entire week. But for me, like, that was my senior year. So the dreams and the hopes of going to college that Upward Bound had been impressing on me for the previous 2 years, it just made it seem as though, wow, I got to change my plan now. Wow, I got to stay home. I got to help. I got to, maybe I got to delay this. But Upward Bound continued to encourage me, you know, even if I didn't go all the way far away to campus, that maybe I can go close. And I did. I went 50 minutes away. So I was able to still come back and forth and check on mom. And it was the best experience I could have done, right? Best decision I could have made for myself. But had I not had that guidance from the Upward Bound counselors and staff and teachers, I probably would have given up on that dream to try to better support my mom throughout that situation. And I was still able to do both, right? We can still do both sometimes without having to cheat ourselves. And so that was a huge win for me. And that allowed me to know that college was real. Not only was college was real, not only could I get my bachelor's degree, I could move on to get a master's, and why not get a doctorate degree, you know? So I'm super excited to just share that, because, you know, I'm always bragging about Upward Bound and being an Upward Bound alum. So,
well, I'm glad you are, because like oftentimes we'll say programs aren't doing enough, right? Like, oh, I'm just giving my money to a program, and these programs, people aren't going, and it's just a big lie. The idea that things aren't happening, because you're here telling us you were faced with a situation many people face in different aspects. But because of programming that was available in the community involved in that, you're now not only raising a world leader and influencer, but you're doing it in your time now as part of programming. And so for me, that just opened up, wow, you know what? I need to make sure, just as I'm very, very, very big on, you're not going to sit and talk about brothers, because I know brothers doing some good stuff. So what you think you hear is not the reality of all brothers. I can now take that stance of programming and how funding actually does impact families, does impact individuals, who in turn, not one or two people, but in turn impact thousands of people with that one person, that one interaction, just listening to you. And that's huge. Huge.
Those programs in Chicago State have been around since 1982. So been around for a long time, impacting a lot of lives. And TRIO programs are nationwide, not even just at Chicago State or just in Illinois, but they're nationwide. And so the very same programs, like, people don't realize Viola Davis is a TRIO alum. Her and her sisters and her mother are TRIO alums. So, like, you know, TRIO has impacted from big names to, you know, just everyday people that decide to go on with their life. And so, you know, the work that we do is impactful, is powerful, and it's valuable to our community, to our low-income students, our first-generation college students. So,
that's what's up. All right, so back to you, which is great. I love the program, but back to you. What point did the idea of these books come about? And what inspired that?
Wow. So The first book is Truthfully Speaking. That's my memoir, the inspirational memoir. That's the flyer behind me. And that actually started, I lost my mom December of 2008, late December
Okay.
2008. Maybe about a
Okay.
month before that, the women that I do STEMSA with, we committed
Mm-hmm.
to doing a kind of taking ourselves through our own rite of passage process. We had been doing STEMSA
Good.
for probably about 2 years at that point and realized, we asking these babies to go through this process and release their pain and let their past
Mm-hmm.
go. And we
Mm-hmm.
haven't done that yet. And many of us in our 20s, 30s, and 40s had not quite taken that step in our lives yet. And so
Wow.
we decided to go through a process together. It was a Sankofa process, which means to go back
Okay.
and fetch that which is good.
Yeah.
And we went through the process with Dr. Pamela Phoenix, who's a holistic health doctor. And that
Okay.
process actually initiated in January, right after I lost my mom. And I tried to back
Okay.
out. I was like, oh, no, I need some time to grieve. I'm
Yeah.
okay. And
Yeah.
everybody
This is
knows,
'09, right?
huh?
This is like '09,
Oh nine,
2009.
January of '09, yeah. And
Okay.
they're like, no, come on. And I was like, no. And they were like, no, this is exactly what you need. So I went through, it was about a 5-month process. I think we started, like that March. And we culminated our experience in August. But right up before that, one of our tasks was to write our life story. We had to
Okay.
project out into elderhood, but start in prenatal. So we had to start at a point where we had to figure out what was going on in the world 9 months before you were born, that God will call you into existence 9 months later. So we had to do
Right.
research and figure out, for me, what was happening in
That's pretty
that
cool.
year prior to me being born, and see if it aligned with your personality and who you are today, and are you living
Mm-hmm.
up to what God has called you into existence to do and to be.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so that was an amazing experience. And I think my paper ended up being like 26 pages. And because we had to have all of these phases through, projection as well,
Yeah.
projecting as an elder.
Right.
And I joked and was like, this is going to be a book one day, 2009. And we finished our process in August. That November, God woke me up in the middle of the night with the title, Truthfully Speaking. I always knew that would be a title. So God wakes me up in the middle of the night often. So I always keep
Okay.
some type of a journal or notebook next to my nightstand. So I just started
Yeah.
jotting down.
Yeah.
He started giving me titles and chapters. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I would pick it up, put it down, pick it up, put it down, and dealing with
Mm-hmm.
so much through life at that point. I just kind of sat it aside for a while. So probably somewhere around 2015, 16, I decided, let's get serious. Let's really,
Okay.
really put this out there. I was had a conversation, shared a draft of it with someone who really thought, man, you got something here. It was a publisher. He was like, you got something, do it. I wanted to go the self-publishing route, just to have that
Mm-hmm.
experience for myself. And I did.
Yeah.
And even towards the end, just getting it over the hump, I had a girlfriend who, because I kept picking it up, putting it down, dancing around it. And
Yeah.
we served together through Trio. And she would tell people, in our region, we would go to different board meetings, that I was going to have a book signing at her annual conference banquet.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was like, the book ain't finished yet. She was like, I know, that's why you got to get finished. And so that really pushed me
Mm.
over the edge, because I was like, well, I can't have a book signing at her event without having my own book signing. So I had my book signing that April, that
Okay.
Saturday, and then I had mine at her conference that Wednesday or Thursday. So, that
Wow.
really pushed me. And one of my mentors, Dr. Carol Carson Warner, always encouraged me to be a finisher of what I started.
Yeah.
She always encouraged me to be a finisher of what I started. And I started that journey, even though it took me 10 years to
Yeah.
release. 2019, 10 years later, it was finally released, but I could say it is finished. It was done.
Yeah.
And my daughter is always watching me. And so I'm always conscious
Mm.
of her, making sure that
Indeed.
she sees me finish what I start, that she doesn't see me
Indeed.
back out or give up too easily on things. And it wasn't an
Indeed.
easy journey. Therapy helped finish that project, help me
Yeah.
finish that project, because there were areas where I would get stuck, whether it was
Mm-hmm.
dealing with some of the trauma that I experienced as my childhood, or dealing with
Mm-hmm.
the trauma of losing my mom. There were areas
Mm-hmm.
where I would get stuck, and I had to figure out how to push past that. So sometimes therapy
Mm-hmm.
was helpful for that, for me,
Yeah.
with being able to talk about and figure out why am I getting stuck here, and being able to articulate what those areas were for me. So it was a
Yeah.
journey, definitely a 10-year journey. I don't think the average person takes 10 years to write a book, but that was a
I don't know. Some
yeah,
never. How about that?
yeah, right.
Some
So
never.
that was the catalyst. During that same season, I was invited to serve as co-author in a couple of other projects, and so that's how God blessed me with 3 books in 9 months in 2019. So it was just it was a season. Back it up, break it down.
3 books in 9 months?
Yeah, yeah.
Congratulations. That's huge.
Bless you, bless God. Thank you. You know, people don't realize even just contributing a chapter in someone else's book. You
Yeah,
know, you have the right to call that your book now. So that was it.
absolutely.
Easy as it was a blessing. Like I said, all I gotta do is write 4 pages, 5 pages, or write a
Yeah.
entry. So it was a very simple, easy process. So for anyone that's interested in trying to figure out how to get started, that think they want to try to write, start there. Start. If you have someone that's interested in
Mhm.
come forward of their project, they want to curate a project. Start there and test the waters and see if that's something for you.
That's cool. Can we backtrack just a little bit? Just in the spirit of the show. You talked about some of the times you got stuck and
Mm.
therapy helped you push past that, which is great. Can you talk or share a little bit about one or two of those things that had you stuck and how you were able to push past that? And the reason I'm saying that or asking is because I think a lot of people, which I love, that your mother and Dr. Parsons taught you about completing what you finished. I love that. And I love that you're modeling that for Nia. I think a lot of people are truly up to good, but they get stuck
Yeah.
and don't necessarily have the tools to unravel some of that stuff. I mean, I talked about Willis Consulting at the beginning of the show, one of our sponsors, and them being therapists and in a consulting service company. So that's something that people can avail themselves to.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Thriving Thursdays isn't all of that, but it is designed to start nudging and pulling back layers until people get enrolled in professional counseling and consulting. Are you able to share one or two areas or things and how you're able to overcome them so that you can continue moving forward? Because right now, we just know you're amazing. Pull back the hood a little bit, Chris.
Yeah, sure. So I definitely I think one of the main areas for me was around my mother. Losing my mother, because I watched my mother struggle with her health for 14 years. I mentioned the very first time she got sick was when I was on a trip with Upward Bound. And so, watching her health overall kind of decline over a 14-year period, having some regrets regarding conversations that I wish I had had with my mom, and not having those hard conversations when they're no longer here. They're no longer here, and so you can no longer have those conversations in the flesh. They become spiritual conversations. And so even for me, I love my mother was like my number. She is me. Like I get being who I am to Nia from my mother. She was my number one cheerleader. I know she's still cheering me on in heaven, but here's the reality. In our families and in our households, we're not perfect as parents. And neither were our parents, right? And so our parents have failed us in some areas, just like we have failed our children in some areas. But our children don't look at it like that, right? Our children look at us like they're little mini gods and saviors, and mama gonna fix it, daddy gonna fix it.
Again, I want to make a meme out of this section and send it to my kids so that because I don't know if they see me like that.
You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, they love us, right? At the end of the day, that's mama, as they say, period. And so, that was me. Like, at the end of the day, my mother, is not that she couldn't do any wrong, but it was just my mother did the best she could with what she had. But therapy helped me. Yeah. Therapy helped me come to grips with a very key area that my mother ultimately failed me in. And I had to really understand it. Wow, that's real. Like she really did. Like, and that was tough. I was stuck there and that was tough.
Yeah.
But being able to name it, and I think that's key. A lot of times we grapple with things that we don't really know what it is. We don't know how to name it, but it's not until we put a name to it that we can then begin to have dialogue around it. Without a name, it's just a blank. It's like, it's this thing. It's this, I don't know what it is. It's this feeling, it's this emotion. But when you can name it, That
Yeah.
becomes key, because then it starts the dialogue around other things, right?
Yeah.
Why is it this? Where did that stem from? But
Right.
without it,
Right.
it's just a blank slate. And so therapy really helped me name some of those key areas, whether it was molestation, whether
Yeah.
it was just trauma from death, grief, whatever it
Yeah.
was. Therapy helped
Yeah.
me put a name to it, so then I can begin
Yeah.
processing, moving beyond it. Got to be able to move beyond it. So that was what was key for me. Sometimes I think we think that therapy is taboo in the Black community,
Right.
right? And I think
Right. Right.
more of us are beginning to embrace therapy and the benefits
Fortunately, yes.
therapy and caring about our mental wellness, even our young people. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
without it, I think that we're out here just moving. We're just existing. We're trying to figure life out as we go. We're trial and error in life. And you don't have to make as many mistakes as you've made. Take a pause, get some advice, get some guidance, step outside of your box and try to have someone help you process some of the things that you've gone through in life, so that you don't keep bumping your head up against the same wall.
Right.
Yeah.
Real. It's so funny that you talk about naming or identifying, or in my mind, facing, like
Yeah.
really dealing with what's so, versus, like, people think I'm always happy. I'm not. I just know that I always have a choice. So
Yeah.
when I have the power, I'm going to choose that. But that doesn't mean I'm not tackling or facing the trauma, the frustration of those moments for what they are. But you mentioning naming it and identifying it, it all of a sudden like opens up the opportunity to find out what's actually going on, and then allows for a plan of action to transpire. Versus, as you just said before, I'm not really sure what it is. And listening to you when you were talking about how God wakes you up in the middle of the night and you have titles and things like that. For me, it's the balance of, one, taking that meditation time, that quiet stillness time,
Mm-hmm.
so that I can hear and get clear, while also facing and trying to discern, okay, something's not right.
Yeah.
Let me not ignore it, or let me not just continue on.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I'm really, really big on the idea of, if I like any one thing too much, then I need to pull back, because I don't want to be mastered by anything
Mm-hmm.
or controlled by anything.
Yep.
And so needing to find out, okay, what's happening with me, to try to uncover that. I love that you just shared that, because, and I'm only giving my side of it in an attempt for others to see the necessity to find out, well, why am I doing this?
Mm-hmm.
What is the actual reason?
Mm-hmm.
And I believe there's always a reason.
Yeah.
We may not be conscious of it, but there's always a reason. Even if it's just to prove ourselves, because that's what drives us. But there's always a reason. So yeah.
That's interesting
Thank
that you said that, because in the book, truthfully speaking, I talk a lot about digging up the roots, right? A lot of times we're afraid to go deep. And that's really what therapy is. We're afraid to go deep. I have two plants behind me. One, the biggest one, is my mother's plant. That plant was gifted to me in 2008 at my mother's funeral. That plant has been with me since 2008. This smaller one was my mother-in-law, that was given to me in 2015, when she passed away. If I don't ever dig up those roots, repot those plants, put them in better soil, if I just keep watering dead plants, then I'm gonna get brown leaves. I'm not gonna get any beautiful, bright, vibrant leaves if I keep pouring water on dead soil. Same thing with us. If we don't ever take the time to dig up our roots, to figure out, who am I? Where did I come from? What does my name mean? Why did God call me into existence? What am I called here to do? If I don't ever try to figure out who I am, why do I respond that way when I get mad? Why did that make me feel that way? Come on, somebody. If we don't take the time to investigate who we are, because we're always trying to dissect and decipher other people and tell them about themselves. What about
that
self?
We will do.
Come on, somebody. What about self? Why are you responding the way you responded? Why did that make you feel that way? Why were you so hasty in that decision? Take the time to figure out who you are, and what about you, your life, and your experiences has shaped you to who you are today. What's good, keep. What needs to be changed, be open and bold enough to change it. Be open and ask God for guidance. I'm really, really big on praying and asking God for guidance. I don't always get it right with the obey piece, but I'm really, really big on that. I'm just being honest. I'm just
Yeah,
being
yeah,
honest.
yeah,
That's how I ended up divorced. I wasn't right. I did not
yeah,
obey God with not getting married,
yeah,
And so for
yeah,
me, if we don't, because a lot of times we'll ask God for something, get up off our knees and go on to work on it. We don't even give him a
yeah,
chance to work on it.
yeah,
Ask God and
yeah.
be obedient and be patient enough to wait and see what it is that he says.
Good,
Yeah.
good. One of the ways that shows up for me has just been allowing things to come versus forcing.
Yeah.
Because I was used to forcing or pray and get up and go work on it. Not that I'm being lazy, but there's a difference between me trying to make something happen
Yep.
and just tuning in and resetting
Yep.
and staying diligent. So yeah, that's good. That's
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah. We're
I
taught to be
love it.
anxious for nothing, right? Be anxious for nothing. And so trust, what's yours is they
Yeah.
talk all the time about manifestation and putting and faith. It's as simple as remaining
It
faithful and
is.
full of faith,
And that piece, Doc, for me over the last year has been critical. I want to hear about some of how you were able to flesh that out when you also obeyed. Um, the idea of faith only exists when you don't see it. You're still operating as if it's so. A lot of times we're like, oh, faith this, faith that. No. It's not faith unless you don't see it and you're still operating accordingly. Otherwise, it's not faith. You see it. So faith is only active or can only be alive and vibrant when it don't even look like it, but you're living like it.
Yeah.
That is huge. Share with us some examples of how that has shown up for you, where you did obey and it didn't look like it, and then the pieces just begin to fall together for you. And because I know that a lot of our audiences, because we're all human, are finding ourselves there even now, especially when we have businesses we wanted to have started. Like my juice bar got closed, but but that doesn't match my vision. I already know what it looks like. So, but because I was in that moment or that sense of faith, it was okay. Because I'm like, oh, that's just a moment. There's nothing stopping me from recreating. Share with us some experiences you've had like that you now are on the other side and you're like, yeah, it was exactly what I thought or in that direction.
Yeah, I would definitely. Oh, wow, there's so many examples throughout the years. I think in general, just SIMSA is a great example, right? We started some mentoring, through my church at that time in 2004, working with elementary school students. Simba had already been up, and around maybe 2005, some of the sisters had an opportunity, and myself had an opportunity to go to one of the Simba camps. Now, this was like sacred territory, all men zone, right?
This is a men.
It was all men zone, all men and boys.
And if I may, I'm so sorry for interrupting you, but you said it, and it just, I want y'all to know, audience, she said it started with Simba. So we are out there getting it. Don't be deceived. We are at work. Okay, go ahead.
I say. And so, we went and, I was just in awe. You got all these Black men mentoring all these Black boys, and some of them were crying and sharing their experiences of hurt and pain. And I remember asking one of the leaders at the time, I said, where's the girl? Where's the SIMSA? Where's the girls program? He said, they used to call me Miss Nay. He said, well, Miss Nay, you ain't started it yet. Check.
I
didn't move then. I didn't move then. And I didn't move the following week because we were still mentoring through this other school. And eventually that died off. And I was voluntold over the pulpit one Sunday that we were starting a girls program. I was like, oh, and they told them to see me after service if they were interested in helping. So I was for real voluntold, like, oh, this is happening. And, the leader and his wife and I had been having dialogue leading up to that, a couple months leading up to that. But I was like, well, lo and behold, I've got to have a girls' camp this summer. And the women and I began coming together and planning and organizing and not know. I remember when our girls first came off the bus in 2007, like a couple of us went down the night before. We wiping down the beds with Lysol at the camp and, setting the atmosphere, burning incense. That girls pulled 26 girls pulled up on the bus. I remember me and another sister from Rockford leaned into each other and said, "What the heck are we supposed to do with these kids for 5 days?" Like we were like, they're here now. We got our little agenda together. And when they came,
Yeah.
it was like, what? But
Yeah.
here we are 15 years later, and God is still saving lives. God is giving us homegrown girls that can take over now when we are ready to shift on and move into another vein in life. So super, super excited. So that was a huge faith area for me because it was like, you want me to what? Save a nation? Okay, I guess I'm Deborah, right? You know?
Yeah.
So that was a huge faith area for me. 2007, moving forward on something that I slept on for 3 years. And then finally looking at being able to see the manifestation of what God was telling us to do.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So we got about 10 minutes or so left.
Okay.
There's something I want that I'm also sensing that has shown up on the last few of the shows, and that is, tell us about some of your secrets to parenting Nia in the way that you've been able to navigate and help her become who she is. And I'm saying that because a lot of us, we don't have a book. There is no handbook. That was a common saying. But you've been able to really put her in some unique spaces, even though you haven't really told us a lot about Nia. I can just sense that. And I know that as a father, even, I want to know more so that I might help position my girls. My son, he's grown, but him and I still interact and we sharpen one another. He's like a brother to me. We continue to really see how we can hone and raise the bar. What are some of the things that, because I know Nia's not perfect, she's just human like the rest of us, and she's your child. And so, give us some tips even in that arena, if you will.
Wow. I think so Nia's father and I, we're good friends now, but we hadn't been together since Nia was about 3 or 4 months old.
Understood.
But one of the things that was key for me was that he always remained a constant in her life. And so I never was that parent that was like, I don't care what I don't care what you don't have financially or what, you're going to be there for her. So every other weekend she was with her dad, his family, in the summertime, she spent summers with him and came home every other weekend with me. So we flip-flop roles at a point. But so for me, I think with Nia being so young and with it just being us for the most part, I was only married 3 years. So with us, it being just she and I for the most part, as she say in the book, except for a few fish and some dogs, I think I had to, and it's a positive and a negative. She had to grow up a little sooner. She was a lot more mature than her peers. So Nia was 3 years old and could shower and lotion up herself and be dressed by the time I come, because that's just, if we got to get out of here by a certain time, when we got to move, I got to lay your clothes out. So I just had to teach her early on very simple things that I think we hold our kids from. We take for granted their abilities when they're very little. And so I think I just kind of helped her in that way. So she was very mature, always very mature, even in her thought process. But I listened to Nia. I recognize that Nia has a voice, just like all children.
That's right.
They have a voice. Even at 4, 5, 6, 7,
That's right.
Teach them how to articulate what it is that they want to say. Teach them how to articulate them. Teach them how to say things with respect. You can say how you feel. You have a right to express how you feel. And so I think I always tried to let Nia have her voice in a way. And to this day, she still respects me. It's not a flippish. She doesn't get, and even to the point that I still got the mama look. So if I feel like you trying to take it up a notch, give you the look, and you already know to dial it back a bit. But one of the things I always tried to give her a voice. I tried to give her space to make her own decisions and her own failures. A lot of people would say, "Oh, you got big shoes to fill because you Nayshons' daughter." No, she don't. She's out here carving her own path. She's out, and I'm supporting her in whatever it is that she wants to do. I cheerleaded in high school. She cheerleaded because she wanted to, but then she decided she wanted to model. Then she decided she wanted to try track. I created opportunities for her, or I allowed her to participate in opportunities that were created for her, whether it was swimming. My best friend put her in swimming with her kids. Whatever it was, I wanted her to try a little bit of everything. It was life is a buffet. Try a little bit of everything, and then go back to seconds at that which you're good at, or that you can see yourself doing for a long period of time. So I think I tried to create a life that allowed her to feel like it was a buffet, And I think the most important thing that I did was when her father and I were no longer together, I said, okay, God, I wasn't born and raised in the church, but I knew I needed a spiritual foundation for my daughter. I said, God, I need you to give me a church home to help me raise this girl. I need a church family to help me raise her. And when Nia was 6 months old, we joined my church, Shekinah Chapel. I just celebrated 18 years there. We've been there since Nia. So God delivered on that. So I think that was one of the most pivotal things I could have ever did for Nia, because Shekinah was founded by Simba. Simba founded our church. And so having that, and then the connection of the Simba programs, and then just being able to be a youth leader in church. She watched her mama lead in church. So then she had opportunities to lead in church as a youth leader, whether it was through dance, whether it was through Sunday school, whatever it was, she had opportunities to do that. So I tried to make sure that she had spaces that she could lead, spaces that she could be heard, spaces that she can explore who she is, and that gives her the liberty to do that now, even as a first-year college student.
That's so cool. That's so cool. I love that you shared that with us, because a lot of what you said in terms of your parenting style nurtures the whole of who she is versus the controlling of what we think we're supposed to do as parents. And it's just not. It's such a misnomer when we're here to just guide and open opportunities and connect. But before we go, tell us about Wheel of Fortune. Come on. Tell us about Wheel of Fortune.
So that was the year I was turning 40, and that was a bucket list. I've always loved Wheel of Fortune. I had 3 things.
This was like last year?
No, a few years back.
We're not gonna ask for, okay, because I'm like 40. Wow.
No, this was not just last year, but I had 3 things on my bucket list for that year. It was to spend my 40th in South Africa, and my best friend and I did that. We were there for 12 days. It was to be on Wheel of Fortune, and it was to finish writing my book, truthfully speaking. And so I auditioned like the year before, and they said that they would, if we, they didn't actually, I didn't get picked there, but they came back that November. That was like in June. They came back that November, and I got an email like, hey, if you're interested, we'll be in Chicago, be here. And so I went to the audition. They asked me to stick around. I stuck around again. And they said, if you get picked, you'll get a letter in the mail. And I got a letter in the mail. It was 4 days before Christmas that I was selected. And so had an opportunity later on that year, that August, to go to California. Me and my baby went. We, I did the show. If you had to do a place, I guess you could say I was in second place. On the show. And so it was an amazing experience. I was able to knock that off during that 40th year, and God did that thing. It was fun. It aired later on, I think that September it aired, and I did like a little viewing over at it's a spot in High Park that they used to have that's not there anymore. So did a little viewing there, and it was just fun, and I would definitely do it again. It was so worth it. And Pat Sajak and Van Day were both very sweet. But it was, everybody on set was very nice. So it was an amazing experience to be able to say I did Wheel of Fortune. So
what was the trick one or the toughest one you had to get?
So let's say I was really good on those speed rounds, like those quick ones. So I'm trying to remember
when you get like 5 letters in one vowel type of thing.
Yeah, real quick. So I was really good on when they give you a few minutes and the letters keep popping up. But the guy next to me, he was like a returner. He would kind of be like a I guess like a fill-in person. If someone didn't show up, they would use him. So he was very experienced. He was just killing the game, and so he would get these questions really quick. So I don't know. It was just, man, I wish I could do it again though. I really wish I could do it again.
Did you ever go bankrupt on the show?
I think I went on bankrupt once or twice. Oh, did I?
Was it a sunken feeling? What was it like in those moments?
You know what? So the challenging part is because the spokes, it's like you have to align your eyes with where the spokes land up, but there's 2 sets of spokes. So at one time I went bankrupt and didn't realize I went bankrupt, and I was like, oh, so I didn't realize that the spokes had landed where they landed. So it was just like, oh man, starting over. But I walked away with $6,000,
cool.
You gotta pay taxes on that. So you have to pay taxes in Illinois and in California.
That's so nice.
I had them take the taxes out up front, and you don't get your money until 90 days after your show airs. And so because my
That sounds
show
like acting.
didn't air until September, I didn't get my money
Oh,
till
Christmas.
January. Huh?
Oh.
I didn't get my money till that January, but then I didn't have to pay taxes on it until the following year because it was considered income for that year,
That's cool.
following year. So, it gave me some time, but it was cool. It was an amazing experience, though. So I encourage anybody, if you got a game show, this your thing, do it. Try it.
Yeah.
Go for it. You only live once.
That's cool. I think it's cool. I wish I had taken the time to find that episode and air it, but it's all good. I
Yeah.
thought about it too. I thought about finding it. There's Dr. Nayshon right there, baby. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Awesome. As we're starting to wrap up, with who you are, not even professionally, what do you want our audience to remember about you and where you're going, and or if today was your last day on the planet, what would you want us to remember?
Wow. Whew. That's a big question. Don't be afraid to live. Like, your life is as much as you live. You have these dates in which you were born and the dates in which you will die. You don't have control over either one of them. The dash is the only thing that matters. And so be open to living life. Don't live so sheltered that you have no experiences that you can look at and enjoy. Also, if you know nothing else about me, I would say I've been through a lot, just like a lot of people in this world have been through a lot. So when you see me smile, when you see me share my joy, write the book anyway. Write the book, tell the story. You may not tell it all, but tell the parts that's impactful that can inspire somebody else. Share the picture, take the vacation, share the joy. What's life without a little bit of joy? Don't be afraid to live life and live it abundantly, because that's the kind of God that we serve. He came that we might have life and have it more abundantly. So enjoy the abundant life that God has blessed you with. I appreciate the opportunity for being on the show today. I really, really do.
My pleasure. Are you kidding me? People like you that make the show worth watching.
Ashe. God bless.
If you will, hold on 1 second, okay?
Sure.
All right. Friend, you've heard it. Thriving Thursdays. The only question is, what do you want to do? This is your life. The only thing you can control is the dash. Get after it. Go live it. Go live it. No more excuses. Activate your faith. Know that you were created for this time, and the only thing to do is show up. I'm Marquise Martin Hayes. It has been my pleasure. See you next time on Thriving Thursday.